It is 7:05, and I will call the meeting to order. And I'd just like to thank everybody who's here for attending. I'm Deb Travis, the chair of the Community Board 8, Bronx Community Board 8 Parks and Recreation Committee. I have a few housekeeping notes for the discussion. Just as a community board, we loosely follow Robert's Rules of Order. So we will be following the agenda that was previously distributed. If we open a topic to general discussion, we ask that if you'd like to speak, that you raise your hand and I will call on you. Our goal is to have a good, robust discussion of our agenda items. However, if we have a lot of people who would like to speak on any individual topic, you may only get to speak once. This is obviously not a rule for this evening, but for other community board committee meetings, you always want to keep that in mind. If you're not speaking, we ask that you keep yourself muted to prevent background noise from interrupting other people. So if you're on Zoom, to raise your hand, you will select reactions at the bottom of the screen. And then if you're on the phone, which I don't think we have anybody on the phone, it's *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise your hand and lower it. So I'm going to start with roll call. So Margaret Della is absent. Bob Fanuzzi, absent. Rashida Hillard. Here. Here. Ramdas Singh. Here. Here. And Deb Travis, here. Rob Jackowski is on the Zoom but is not present, so is not counting towards quorum. David Gelman is absent. Bob Bender is absent. So for tonight, we don't have a quorum, as I just mentioned, but that doesn't prevent us from actually having a good discussion. We just won't be voting on any items. So the approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 24th, we will table till the next committee meeting. So the first thing I just want to talk about is, we'll start with the chair's report. The first thing I want to talk about is parks funding. So Mayor Adams continues to attack the parks funding as though parks budget dollars grow on trees. So, as of February 22nd, he had proposed a 12% cut to the Parks Department, or almost $100 million over 2 years in the executive budget proposal that he put forth. So, if you are interested in advocating for additional funds for the Parks Department, which we really all should be, the amount of funding is completely untenable and unsustainable. New Yorkers for Parks is organizing a campaign that you can participate in at all levels, from organized actual protests and rallies to signing petitions and ballots to sending emails to our electeds. So our electeds have a lot of say in how the budget is allocated. So this is an opportunity right now in budget season when they're planning for next year to really make sure that your voice is heard. Mayor Adams ran for office on 1% of the whole city budget going to the Parks Department. He has not even gotten to half of that, and now continues to cut the city parks budget brutally, as though it's not an essential service, as though these parks will take care of themselves. I also want to highlight there are other discussions about alternative ways to fund parks. Shekhar Krishnan of Queens, who is the Parks Committee Chair for the New York City Council, has announced the development of legislation that would allow the Parks Department or the individual parks to keep 80% of the concession income that is generated in their park, with the other 20% going to smaller parks I assume in the borough, that serve, particularly ones that serve communities of color that have not had enough funding over the last many years. Also, New York State Assembly member Jessica Gonzalez-Rojas of Queens is developing legislation which would add a surcharge to tickets for stadiums that are located in parkland, like Citi Field and Yankee Stadium. So we'll keep our eye on these initiatives as they continue to move forward. The Center for an Urban Future has released a report. They released it back in January, called Paying for the Growing Needs of New York City Parks, 20 fresh ideas to fund parks and open spaces. And these two ideas are actually in that report. But if you are interested in receiving a copy of that report, you can find it online at the Center for an Urban Future, or just contact the board office and we can email you a copy of it. And so without further ado, a first item on our agenda this evening is Stephanie Ehrlich presenting Let's Green NYC.
Hi,
Stephanie,
everybody.
do you have the presentation?
I do. Do you want to make me a co-host?
Oh, yeah.
We just made
I am the co-host now. Okay. All right, hold on. I'm just going to make it a slideshow. Give me 1 second. Okay, hold on 1 sec. Sorry.
All good.
Okay, so okay, here we go. Let's Green NYC. So why Green NYC? During COVID-19, as we all know, our parks were community hubs for New Yorkers. And post-pandemic, the Surgeon General has declared an epidemic of loneliness and a lack of connection in the United States, citing volunteering as a cure. So to address climate change and climate anxiety, New York City Parks believes connecting New Yorkers to their local green and open spaces will help them feel more positively about the city's bright green future and improve public health. So what is New York City Parks doing? They're improving tracking by engaging a record number of volunteers by the end of 2024 and tracking volunteers and their cumulative impact. And I'll say this, that as of now, there are more than 400,000 people who volunteer in parks in this past year since we've been counting. We're expanding equity, sharing a new website to better match groups and individuals to volunteering opportunities, amplifying partner group participation with our new volunteer group directory, and enhanced engagement. So we're celebrating our existing volunteers, attracting new partners to volunteer in our parks, and new resources. So why volunteer? Volunteering is a long-standing, oops, sorry about that. Oh, hold on, got a little funny there, excuse me. Let's try that again, shall we? Sorry. So why volunteer? Volunteering is a longstanding pillar of New York City Parks mission.
Should we be seeing a shared screen?
Are you not seeing it? Are you not seeing it? Hold on. Can you see it?
There we go.
Okie dokie. Hold on.
Not the slideshow, but it's fine.
There we go. Okay. So again, why volunteer with New York City Parks? Volunteering is a longstanding pillar of New York City Parks mission. Being in nature boosts your mental and physical health. Volunteering with a group can fight loneliness and foster new connections. Parks offers hundreds of volunteer opportunities all over the city with diverse groups, from beaches to playgrounds to gardens to trails. There's something for everyone. So this is actually, I think, the most exciting thing that is happening here is that there's a new website and you can filter by volunteer opportunities. So you can match up with a volunteer group. And it's showcasing the diverse volunteer groups. So if you don't see your group, you can volunteer group, use the volunteer group update form to add your group to this list. And you can see here, there's a map of the city on the side, and all of these dots are different volunteer groups. So get involved with Let's Green NYC. Visit our volunteer website and sign up for a volunteer event that matches your interests. encourage volunteer groups to join the Let's Green NYC group directory and help grow their volunteer base, and tell your local civic and community groups about Let's Green NYC and partner with us to host your own volunteer event in your favorite park. So if you'd like to learn more about Let's Green NYC, there's the URL right there. Very, very easy. And we did a Let's Green NYC event in Van Cortlandt Park this past summer. We did it at the stadium stairs, and we painted about 2/3 of the stairs. And we will finish that project and hope that we can encourage some of you to come join us so that we can finish painting the stairs. That's it.
David? That's great. Stephanie, are there other volunteer opportunities coming up in Van Cortlandt Park? And are they part of Let's Green NYC, or is there not no real distinction?
That's a great question. There is really there's no distinction for us because Van Cortlandt Park Alliance is part of Let's Green NYC, and we enter our numbers into that large pool of statistics. So my partner in crime, Christina Taylor, she of the goat.
Hello.
I don't know if you want to talk about volunteer programs that are coming up.
Sure. So upcoming volunteer events for the month of March, we have our Forest Restoration Fridays will be taking place every Friday, starting this week because it's already March on Friday. So we have Forest Restoration. They're meeting Friday mornings at the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance Garden and Compost site and heading out to the Northwest Woods. And then we have 3 Thursdays over in Woodlawn, the last 3 Thursdays of the month, working in the Northeast Woods. And starting in April, we'll have a lot, at least 1, if not 2, weekend volunteer opportunities per month. And we'll continue probably, we'll definitely consider Forest Restoration Fridays. And at some point in May, we'll be starting up Water Chestnut Wednesdays. So if you want to get in some waders and go into the mill pond and move water chestnut, that's very helpful and a lot of fun.
So Water Chestnut Wednesdays is what day? I mean, what time?
Those will be
Okay.
meeting probably at 9 o'clock. And if the
And
community
that
board
doesn't start
ever
till
wants to
April.
organize a group and volunteer with us, we can set a date that works for all of you.
Oh, interesting. How big does the group have to be?
We like to say that the groups are going to be at least, if you have at least 8 people, that way if you have 1 or 2 no-shows, we still have a decent size. It's always nice.
That's good to know.
And you can go to vancortlandt.org to sign up. And you can also get all of Van Cortlandt Park's e-news, which has volunteer opportunities and other programmatic opportunities for you to see.
Rashid, do you have questions?
Yes, good evening all. It's
Hi, Rashid.
Are you open to any day of the week for volunteers to be a part of this opportunity?
In Van
If you
Cortlandt
could- Yeah, if you have a group, we can definitely schedule any day of the week depending on our staff availability. If you're coming as an individual, you have to come during one of our events that's open to the general public. But we also do have for individuals, if you want to kind of set your own schedule and go out on your own, we do have Vital Volunteers program where people can sign up and adopt a section of the park that they maintain. And there's a few options. You could just be on litter patrol and we'll give you everything you need to clean up litter in that section of the park. Or if you want to get some additional training, you can become a trail maintainer and help maintain a section of trail.
And you wouldn't want people to go out alone in waders.
No, definitely not. So the waiters, that's only with us kind of thing.
Please
What
don't.
they like.
Please, yeah. And please no.
Any questions? Well, the meeting tonight is, you're surrounded by volunteers tonight, so it is a perfect opportunity. Melissa or Deidre or Julie, do you have any questions about this particular program? All right. Then, if there's, without further ado, I will move on to the meat of the meeting. Thank you, Stephanie, for that presentation. I appreciate it.
You bet.
So I wanted to talk about, we have to assemble our fiscal year '26 budget priorities. So for folks in the community who are new to this process, one of the kind of mandates of the community board is to put together a list of kind of needs or priorities for the district. And this is across all of the committees. So each committee, during February, March, maybe April, they assemble a prioritized list of capital priorities and expense priorities. Capital priorities are anything that costs more than $350,000.
Logically, yes,
But it's kind of everything.
$35,000.
$35,000, okay.
It should be much higher like that.
That's
Most
$35,000.
environments, capital budgeting is a much higher number than 35,000.
Right. Parks is unique in that the threshold is low, but the cost of everything is high.
Well, it's not parks, it's the city budgeting
Yeah.
mechanism.
Oh, that's true, it's the city budget.
Yeah, it's silly, but those are their rules.
So it's anything that costs $35,000 or more, and then it's also, it's expected to have a lifespan. So programming, for example, would be an expense item, but like, reconstruction of a playground would be a capital item. So last year, each committee puts together its list.
Or buying a garbage truck, or...
Buying a garbage truck, buying a pickup, all of the kind of equipment that the Parks Department, both in the district and in Van Cortlandt Park specifically, use, those would all kind of go onto this list. And then the purpose of the list is to basically raise the profile of the types of needs that the community has. And it gives an opportunity for people in the community to come forward and say, hey, this playground needs some attention, and to get it onto the priority list. Doesn't necessarily mean, like, one thing I want to be clear is that the community board doesn't have any money to actually do these projects ourselves. What we do is really, we pull these things together so that there is a good list, so that the electeds, the mayor, and the borough president, other people have awareness, particularly for the Parks Committee, because with the Parks Committee, they don't have their own capital budget, and so everything is allocated by our elected officials. You want to jump in?
Not quite.
David is the budget chair is the chair of the Budget Committee.
Yeah. What it is, these are budget requests, okay, that we prioritize within each of the committees, and then we accumulate them across the committees for all of the district. But these are requests that are made of city agencies to hopefully find ways within their budget planning to accommodate us. It happens that these lists are also used by, or read by, really, our electeds and the mayor's office itself and whatnot, to reflect, and the borough president, to reflect on things that could be done, should be done, that might be of interest to us. But this document is specifically directed at the respective agency, DPR, Department of Parks and Recreation, Department of Education for education, Department of Transportation for traffic and transportation, et cetera. So.
Yeah, the one caveat is, and it's a good point to raise, is that some agencies have funding themselves internally, and then when we give them our requests and say we would like you to fund X, Y, Z, like with DOT, that most of their money would probably come from existing allocations within their own capital budget. Much more of a political process when you're talking about the Parks Department. So that's what makes it more like a little bit unique when it comes to the Parks budget request. And that is, you can see that in the responses that we get from the Parks Department. So what the board submitted our list for fiscal year '25. Just so you understand that FY '25 means is currently right now we are in FY '24. The budgeting year begins July 1, ends in June for the city. So right now, that's why everybody's having all of their discussion about what the budget will be, and the mayor is issuing his executive recommendations, et cetera, is that it's all towards having a budget that is agreed upon by the mayor and the city council by June. And so, that, the next budget that they need to work out is the fiscal year 25 budget, which is the budget that will end in fiscal year 25, which is 2025, which is next year. So those budget priorities we've already assembled, we've already given to our respective agencies, and so now we're working on the fiscal year 26 budget priorities, which is what this meeting is about. So that's the kind of the gist of it. The things, we'll put up a list of the things that were kind of, I intentionally did not maintain the order of the stuff that was on the list last year, because I think it's always good to just take a fresh set of eyes on the list. Also, we did have a couple of things that were funded, that are kind of on their way to being done, which is always nice to see. And so, we've got a couple of things that are coming off the list, basically. And then the purpose of this call tonight, or this meeting tonight, is really to start putting together, we've got probably 20 things from last year. What we did last year was we did a top 10, and then we had a kind of a side list of additional ideas that people had, but that didn't have as much support as that top 10 stuff for the capital. The reason being that the Parks Committee is heavy on capital requests. Most of what we do is, most of what we advocate for are capital things. So I thought what we could do maybe tonight is just to start off with the committee. If there's anything, you've seen the list, if there's anything you want to add to it, just right off the bat.
I just want to make one note. The borough president reminds us that we are not to, as a community board, we are not to submit more than about 30 capital budget requests and 30 expense budget requests. And realistically, the borough president's office doesn't pay attention after 5. With that in mind, realize that that Parks is one of 10 operating committees. So we really should not be submitting anything more than 3, or at very least, the top 3 should be our focus. And the others are, sort of reminders for ourselves, reminders for next year, things for the electeds to keep in mind, whatever. We're really trying to focus on the top 3 capital and expense requests.
And I think also the thing to keep in mind is, particularly if you have a specific idea, like a specific park, I know Melissa, you really advocated for Fort Independence Playground, which is great. That didn't have to be on our budget priorities list to still be a successful project or to advocate for it. So even if something ends up not getting all the way to the top 5 things or the top 10 things for our budget priorities, that doesn't mean that you should feel discouraged or that you shouldn't keep advocating for it, because really if the community goes to their elected officials and say, we think this is really important, the elected officials are going to weigh that against other requests that they have for their discretionary spending. So with that, is there anything, do you have anything off the top of your head that you've taken a list, or should we just start with the list? I've got a couple of things on the list I know I want to make sure are on the list next year.
You want me to share the screen?
Yeah, let's pop over to the list.
It's very impossible to read.
Yeah, luckily it's all the same answer for all of them.
Well, but the request is hard to read, too.
Yeah, I'll put it up here.
Okay.
So, let's just take a minute and let the folks on the Zoom read it. I organized it by kind of themes. So, redesign and reconstruction of Bailey Playground has been on our list for many years. And I'll spoiler alert, this is the one I would advocate first for putting onto the, we got a second. Moving it, continuing to have it on our budget priorities for fiscal year 26. We have restoration of Lower Bruss Park staircase. This is a request that came in last year for just restoring the flagstones, pavers, steps, and handrails of Lower Bruss Park.
Question about that.
Yeah.
I know it was supposed to be renovated. When is that supposed to start?
Lower Brush Park?
No, sorry, I'm confused with UN Park, never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Scrap that. Sorry, scrap that whole thought.
Different
Yeah, sorry.
I was like, ooh, Lower Brush Park? Reconstruct Washington's Walk. Reconstruct Washington's Walk to make the pathways ADA accessible. This is a park that is at the southern end of the Jerome Park Reservoir. Update and add benches. A lot of benches have been removed, and replace the temporary chain link fencing with a wrought iron, like more permanent fencing. Marble Hill Playground lighting, install park lighting within the interior of Marble Hill Playground. It does not have any park lighting inside of it, so it gets pretty dark pretty quick in the winter. Reconstruction of Old Fort Park. This park is just adjacent to Washington's Walk. It's also at the southern end of the Jerome Park Reservoir. This park has two capital projects that are happening currently. One is the construction of a restroom, which was the replacement of a restroom that had burned down in the 80s, and that the community advocated for over 20 years. That was approved, and that is in construction right now, and I think is expected to be done sometime at the end of this year. Also, there's a capital allocation to renovate the basketball courts. So I updated this just to remove the basketball courts from the request. It's still in pretty rough condition. The fencing is not good. It's got a lot of different kind of playgrounds from different eras. All of them are well within the, outside of the generally recommended, like every 20 years you renovate. Jerome Park Reservoir pedestrian safety lighting. So this is just to install a park-style lighting along the walkway within the parkland surrounding the Jerome Park Reservoir to improve safety. It's quite dark around the reservoir. Paper. Need paper?
Thank you.
You want to, I can give you a full piece if you want.
No, keep on.
And then, so this is just the park, particularly along Goulden, gets very dark. So this is really just to encourage a better lit walkway area. We've already gone to DOT to see, DOT is in charge of lighting, and they say that the street is adequately lit. So this would really be putting park-style lighting along the pathway, which actually cuts a little bit further into Jerome Park. Next one, reconstruct Riverdale Playground basketball courts. This is to just replace the nets, rims, backboard, resurface the court, much like what they're doing in Fort Ford. And this should be a relatively small project, but it remains on the list. Do you have a comment?
No, I forget, which one is Riverdale Playground?
It's-
Is that part of?
The RK
Okay,
41.
adjacent seat.
Yeah.
Reconstruct Hackett Park Dog Run. So this is Hackett Park has mostly is a dog run that's on the top of the hill. The dog run is it's like a chain link fence and could really use a little bit of TLC.
And that's the one at Henry Hudson Parkway and 254 and Riverdale Avenue and.
Marshall,
weird.
Marshall, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Jody. Okay, so those are the individual parks that we have right now on from last year. I'll just, we'll go over the other ones real quick, and then we'll come back to whether there's any additions that folks would like to make. Van Cortlandt Park, from last year, we had ADA access to the Northwest Forest. This came out of a proposal from, what were they called? The organization that was trying to.
Women of Woodlawn?
No, this is on the west side. So this is that organization that was trying to connect with the Northwest Forest from Yonkers, the Yonkers Greenway.
Mm-hmm.
Groundwork Hudson Valley? Groundwork
Yeah.
Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Groundwork Hudson Valley. They had as one of their items was to just create some sort of access for people with, who have a disability with walking, so that they could have some access to the Northwest Forest. So just a point of entry so they can get into the forest and enjoy the woods a little bit. So establish a Parks Enforcement Patrol Command.
But that Kelly thing, that's really to provide access for Yonkers residents, correct?
Oh, this one, Well, this is just ADA access to, off of, to the Northwest Forest on the side someplace. It's like over by Kelly Field or.
But it's in the body of the park, it's not the northern,
It's
perimeter.
Northern, yeah.
Okay, because you do mention that later.
Yeah, that's then there's the fence. So then, let's see, we had establishing a Parks Enforcement Patrol Command in Van Cortlandt Park. So this is funding for vehicles and other equipment to support a new Parks Enforcement Patrol Command in Van Cortlandt Park. So what this is that, this Community Board and Community Board 7, and 14 have all passed resolutions asking for a command station of PEP officers in Van Cortlandt Park. And the reason for this is so that they don't have to come all the way from Orchard Beach, essentially, from Pelham Bay Park to answer calls. And it would also allow them to just have better circulation and more of a presence in Van Cortlandt Park, but also in all of the other smaller parks in the Northwest Bronx, going, all the way down to Fordham Road and beyond. So this is just provides for the capital needs to get this set up. The next one is converting the Mosholu temporary golf house. I'll get to hands when I get done with this section. We can come back. Convert Mosholu temporary golf house to permanent parks administration building. What this is there is a temporary golf house that was built as part of the filtration plant work. The filtration plant is in Van Cortlandt Park along Jerome Avenue. This temporary golf house, in theory, is not going to be used once the work is done on the actual permanent golf house, although that is certainly up for discussion. So this was really to complete the sewer connection, because that temporary golf house does not have a sewer connection, to update the building layout and to provide furnishing and equipment to convert this temporary structure, which is for use by the Mosholu Golf House, into some sort of Parks Administration building or PEP Command building, so that it could actually be used by the community instead of kind of for storage or as an outbuilding by the golf course. Van Cortlandt Park Mansion staircase restoration. So there's a staircase next to Van Cortlandt House Museum that goes down towards the area where the swimming pool is. That staircase is the historic entrance to the house, and used to be how not only did you approach the house from that direction, but there were extensive gardens in front of it. So that red brick staircase is in very deteriorated condition and is unsafe and is now blocked. This would be money to restore it and to kind of connect the house once again to that kind of former gardened area. You'll see that it says the fence has been funded. So the fence around the Van Cortlandt House Museum will be part of a capital project to remove the lead and to get it completely repainted. So that'll look beautiful. Also, the house is part of a capital project that's $16 million that will be renovating the exterior and making it ADA accessible. And then finally, reconstruct Van Cortlandt Park fencing and entrances along the Yonkers border. So currently, the Van Cortlandt Park border with Yonkers, the northern border, is a mix of chain link fences, open edges, entrances that are very easy for motorcycles and other motorized vehicles to get onto and have access to. And so what this would do is establish actual formal entrances that would prevent motorized vehicles from getting onto the trails, but also allow for pedestrians and greenway usage. So I'm going to stop there for a sec. Any questions about any of these? Jody, you had your hand up.
Yeah, Deb, thanks. You mentioned the PEP Command post. If CB 7 and 12 pass resolutions, are they going to put in this request into their budget request? Because I looked at the register, and for fiscal year 25, they said they just asked for more PEP officers. They didn't say anything about Van Cortlandt Park or a command post.
So last year, I would have to go back and look. I think we put some other parks and other priorities over this too. because we felt that there was a need. So the year before, we all were kind of united in putting it in the kind of the top 5 of our budget priorities. I can certainly reach out to them to see, but once we've decided, if we decide we're gonna put PEP in that first top 5, then I'm comfortable reaching out to the other 2 community boards to see what they'll do. The first year we did this, when we passed a resolution, we shared language on what the budget priority was, but you know how these things kind of shift over time.
Right. So
agree with
they had just a very generic, more PEP to, enforce rules in parks in general. The fiscal year 25 one, the register that came out in January, did not have it in there. And then the second part is that had, I think, of parks requests, 6 of 18 were for Van Cortlandt Park for us. So when you speak to them, maybe we can share the burden and have them put some of these in instead of 40% of our requests for parks be for Van Cortlandt Park when they share borders with it as well.
Did they not have very many Van Cortlandt Park things in their budget priorities?
They had 0.
Oh, they had 0?
They had
both 7
0.
and 12?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments about this section? And then equipment. Oh, yeah, Melissa.
Would this be something where like the Fort Independence playground mats could be added, or is that not this section?
So the good news is that the Fort Independence Playground, it made it onto the list of CPI, Community Parks Initiative funding. And so the whole playground is gonna be renovated in next year. And the mats are actually part of the playground structure. So all of it, because when we originally asked for the mats, they were like, actually, we have to do everything. You can't just replace the mats. But they're gonna do a capital project to reconstruct the entire playground.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's very exciting. I think that as a fiscal year 25 project. So it'll kick off the community input sessions and stuff that are part of CPI next year. Then for folks who who may not know, it's generally 14 months for each cycle. So it's 14 months for design, 14 months for procurement, and 14 months for construction for any of these projects once they kick off. Question. So equipment. So equipment for litter collection within the district. So this was something that our district, Parks District leader, district manager came to. One large garbage truck to be assigned to the district. And then we also had equipment for litter collection within Van Cortlandt Park, which was an additional mini packer. Stephanie, do you still need the mini packer?
More than ever, we need that mini packer.
Okay.
Did we ever get a garbage truck?
We never got it. We didn't get a mini packer, right?
We never got a mini packer.
And Stephanie, while we're in this, well, I guess this is just equipment. Is there any other? Usually your requests are equipment. Is there any other equipment that you want to add to this while we're here?
We need gators, but they're not the right price point for this, which is unfortunate. The small
Gators are expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get there. And then a crew cab pickup for the district was also a request. All right, next, natural areas. So we had a couple of requests that were related specifically to natural areas. Natural areas are things that are things. Natural areas are parks that are specifically designated to be kept wild. So we've got a upstream stormwater management of the Alderbrook stream bed in Riverdale Park, which was to just remove the sedimentation and invasives there. There's a lot of runoff, particularly with the heavy storms that we've had in the last couple of years, that's driving a lot of stormwater runoff into Alderbrook stream, which then removes the healthy levels of sedimentation and or healthy levels of kind of topsoil along the way, and just takes it all downstream and causes it all to become kind of overrun. Yes.
Jody, I think this is the one that you brought up last year, and it says the Alderbrook stream in Riverdale Park, but I thought much or most of the issue was the east side of Palisade Avenue, that narrower stream that, I don't know if that's private property or DOT property, or, I don't think it's actually Riverdale Park.
The good memory,
Uphill.
David, the Alderbrook does run through the private property, so there were two sections of it. And we were advised to divide it into the part that's in Riverdale Park, which, because all that water is coming down from a parking lot that was put up who knows where, it creates more force with the water, so now there's sedimentation and invasives. And then in the ENS one, there should be a piece for dealing with the storm runoff that's outside the park. Does that make
This is
sense?
just for the part that's in Riverdale Park, and then ENS has, I think, and that's for DEP for the outside park.
Across Palisade Avenue, adjacent to Spalding Lane.
Yeah, Spalding Lane and all the way up through all the private houses in that private street that goes up there. It runs through there.
Which I actually think is called Alderbrook.
Because they get, we get spanked for combining requests and agencies in one thing, so we separated it.
Okay.
I have a question about the Marble Hill lighting.
Yeah.
It says here, parks will connect with the DOT. Do we have an update on that? Because they said.
Oh, okay. We don't have an update on it.
Okay.
They sent this today.
Okay. All right.
And when I read it, I read all of them say Department of Parks. So this is the updated version. The previous version that originally went out with the comments, the responses from the agency all said to contact the agency.
Right, yeah.
So
I saw that one.
I contacted the agency, and then I think that was an accident. They didn't mean to put that response.
Okay.
So then they sent me the one that I was expecting, which is Department of Parks and Recreation funds are insufficient for this project. We recommend this project be brought to the attention of your elected officials, i.e. Borough President and or City Council member. But you're right, the Marble Hill lighting says that they will discuss it with DOT. This is, I would still think it would be budget issues. I can follow up with that.
I think for me, obviously Bailey Playground is still number one.
Yeah.
Reconstruction of Bailey Playground. And I also think we should advocate for it to be number one on overall, or fight for that number one spot for Bailey Playground, if possible.
Let's be careful about that one. I mean, it has been our number
of
one.
course,
It
of
should
course.
be our number one. But we're never gonna get it.
I know.
Eric and Piedina are going to get it for us, and they're on their way. So we should make it clear that we very much support it. But we shouldn't waste a top bid, a first-round draft choice on it.
I don't know if I agree with that. It's been our first round it's the Parks Committee number one priority.
I know, until now, when Eric and Piedina are saying that they're finding funding for it, essentially. So I think we should find a way to make it clear that we still very much support it, but that we prioritize other things.
Well, I disagree, but we can discuss that at
Yeah,
the next
yeah,
meeting, because
right.
we'll just let, I
Yep,
think
we'll
we can
do
agree we
priorities
want it to
next
go
month.
on the, we'll do priorities next month.
Yep,
But,
yep.
yeah, we can agree it'll go on the
Mhm.
next one. So there's a couple of important ones that are, just beyond, the Spuyten Duyvil Shorefront Park Pond Restoration, which we need to get clarification from Jody as to whether this is still the correct language. Jody, you want to speak to the Spuyten Duyvil Shorefront Park Pond Restoration?
Yeah, and I also, again, will just say that these budget requests are our priorities that inform the council members of what we would like them to fund, since almost all the answers are ask them for money. So, so I think that part of it is this got, again, mixed up with a separate request that is already funded. So it should say Spuyten Duyvil Shorefront Park restoration, not pond.
Okay. Let's remove that. There's the rest, green infrastructure to divert, absorb, and clean stormwater runoff from catch basins, streets, and the Henry Hudson Bridge outfalls. Is that all correct?
Yeah, and we can even just say that drain into the park. We could take a lot of the, I mean,
Yeah.
this was
Take a lot
sort
it
of like
out.
Karen's language for stormwater,
Yeah.
but I think that we could say that drain into the park and create erosion. Because then the next part, rehabilitation and restoration, goes into that, because they're degraded because of all this water.
So do we need the green infrastructure right after restoration? Or keep that part?
No, I think that because of, so I might even be able to remove this one. I'm meeting with the Trails Program, Natural Area Conservancy next week to talk about fixing all the trails that were eroded by this runoff. And then I'm also meeting next month with Kevin, his last name starts with an A. He's the one who is managing the contract for the pond rehabilitation that Eric previously funded for $3.5 million. And he said that he was hoping that he could expand it into this exactly. So, I may in another month have info from him whether $3.5 million is enough, or we need to keep this in as a separate thing as well. Did that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So then,
Okay.
so this is, but the language for this right now is okay?
Yes.
Ask is correct, okay. And then we'll see where it lands next month.
Sounds good.
Okay, yep, that works. All right, so then we got greenways. This is, we've got the, purchase the right-of-way from Metro North for pedestrians and bicycle connection between West 230th Street Public Access Terminus of Tibbettsbrook Greenway and off-street connection to Harlem River Greenway.
I don't think there's any purchase to be made. They don't own it. They have the right of way as a state agency. What you might want to say in a different context, acquire right of way. All right, but that wouldn't be a budget item. That would be a request, a letter or something like that to.
So we don't want this in the budget?
No, not really, not
Okay.
really.
I was under the impression we needed it, but because it came up. Yeah, Jody?
I would check with Karen. That might actually be Metro North owned property, not a right of way.
We were just gonna purchase, like, what my understanding coming out of ENS was that Metro North owns it, and that the existing project had to acquire a right-of-way through it for the pipe, and that we would be wanting to acquire an additional right-of-way for people. would like.
That's a fair, description, but there's no purchase. We would not be purchasing it. We purchased the more northern part from CSX,
Right.
because that was a corporation that owned, the railroad.
There's right-of-way free, I just,
There's also,
It's owned by, the state. Metro North doesn't own anything.
okay. Julie, are you raising your hand to talk on this topic?
yeah, so there's also upcoming community meetings to discuss the greenways that are gonna be put through the Bronx, so it might be
That's
good
a separate matter.
to coordinate with them to see what's needed.
Yeah,
Or
we've
is
been in those discussions. There is another presentation by DEP on the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook tomorrow evening.
I think she's also talking about the Harlem River Greenway community input
Yeah.
sessions, right? Which,
Exactly, like where, because if they aren't gonna even go in this direction, like, because they're all about where those will be placed and what access points will be included.
This is needed as part of the daylighting?
So I think there's a couple of things happening at the same time. It seems like she raises a good point that we should check in with the Harlem River Greenway people to see if they're off-street, there's an off-street greenway that they would like to have, and then there's the on-street kind of short-term they're gonna do in the meantime. And I guess it would be good to clarify that the off-street one includes extending this particular extension. That was my understanding from Bob Fanucci and that
No,
Chauncey.
we are pushing the fight for no on-street, that it all be off-street.
Yeah.
Well,
it would be the-
everything is eventually. I mean, the Harlem River Greenway is 4 years away.
Right. But I don't, where the terminus is, I guess, like this particular section of Green would go from 230th to 225th, and then at 225th, does it go on-street? I mean, that's
No.
the part I don't know.
No. What it would do is it would continue to the Metro North Hudson Line tracks and go over or under. Certainly, they want to put the pipe under the tracks there, but depending on how the negotiations go with the developer for Fordham Landing, who's going to be building about a half a mile south on the Harlem River,
Right.
and part of the deal is he's basically saying, I'll build you a greenway to that connection point between what is really Putnam South.
Right.
And there will be a question of whether it flies over, goes under, goes parallel for a while, I don't know. But
Right.
from our perspective, the thing that we can deal with is the segment at least from 230 to 225, and that's convincing Metro North to sort their trash somewhere else.
Well, there's that part. The trash part is different,
Well, but
it's a different committee,
Well, yeah, but I mean, the issues are one and the same. The only reason why they care about that section is they want to sort their trash there.
They already are sorting trash there. And
Okay.
I did look up on Zola, David, it is owned by
Actually,
Metro North.
I was there today and I didn't see any, train cars, but it's still an open issue that we want to resolve. Sorry, you were
Yeah,
saying?
on Zola, I think I hit the right property. It says it's owned by Metro North.
So at the last Parks Committee meeting, I think it was Karen Argenti who raised, I just raised budget stuff really quickly, and so that's why I made a note, that this was something that they wanted added to as a proposal for our budget priorities, was that additional bit of green space for the Greenway.
I would agree.
If we don't need to acquire it, then if there's no money, then
Right.
that's one.
That's what I'm getting at. And frankly, we shouldn't let Metro North hold us hostage. We should be acquiring the rights. We shouldn't have to pay them for it.
So then
Because it's not their property.
So then, should this then be just for the construction of it? Construction of the greenway connecting, so it's not about acquiring the right of way for Metro North or any of that, it's just construction of,
In theory, you're right.
Connection between blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, in theory, you're right, but then one could say you're putting the cart before the horse. You're talking about getting construction funds for property we don't have any permission to use yet.
I'm buying a cart thinking I'm not gonna move it unless I get a horse.
All right.
Otherwise, what am I feeding a horse
All
for?
right, you could say, in anticipation of permitted access, funds to, create the greenway from 230 to 225.
Right. You wanna just tweak that, so we get rid of the right-of-way part and just create yeah, right there. In anticipation of,
But
Permitted access.
I thought the point was that Metro North doesn't really need this for running their railroad. They're using it for
we're talking about
non-transfer.
Jody, we're just talking about, like, as a budget priority, saying we would like, some money to be allocated for building the rest of this out.
No, I understand, but I'm a little confused. I thought,
Jody,
can I finish, David, please? I'm just a little confused. I thought that the purpose was to buy it from Metro North so they could never use it again for railroad purposes, not just to have, to have the property.
okay, the reality is that they want it, and they're not gonna give it up unless they're told to give it up. That's all there is to it. So, we think that they should not be sorting trash there. They think that they should. Okay, so we need our electeds to tell them, move it somewhere else. I've already found another place, but that's a different topic. But in anticipation of permitted access, development of.
Construction for pedestrian bicycle, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Construction of, for the four, yeah.
That's right.
Then just the reconstruction of the Wave Hill swale. I haven't been over there to see, if it's still deteriorated. I wasn't just at Wave Hill.
Oh, I assure you, it hasn't gotten any better. But you know what it is generally, right? I mean.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Well, no, but you know the condition generally, missing cobblestone and all
Yeah,
that.
all washed out. Some of this is the very water that's going down to Alderbrook.
Actually,
Right around and then down to the,
well, I guess eventually at Palisade Avenue, there probably is some way to go over, but it never crosses Spalding Lane, but it may at the bottom of the hill. But, yeah,
that's still there, no problem.
Is swale the correct word? I thought swale was vegetated.
isn't that a bioswale?
Yeah, I thought swale was
No.
just a fancy word for a ditch.
There's a difference between a ditch and a swale. A bioswale is one that is vegetated in a specific way to hold and absorb stormwater. A regular swale could just have grass in it. So a bioswale is you're specifically planting it with specific things.
Okay, well,
Right, but what about swale? No? No, I mean, I'm happy to change the word. Words are free.
The definition is a low or hollow place, especially a marshy depression between ridges.
Well, it's not really that.
Ridges.
That's what.
That's what I'm saying.
Is it a culvert?
It's sort of an endpoint.
No, a culvert is a pipe.
Open culvert?
All right, let's not take time now, we're a month from,
For the moment,
prioritizing.
We'll call it a swale and we'll come back to it.
Yep.
Yeah, accuracy
Better word than
matters.
swale.
You know what, italicize that word, if you would.
Yeah, or highlighter or something.
Yeah. Right.
And then you can underscore it, and then you can bold it.
So I did want to call out a few things that are leaving the list because they have funding. So the playground equipment at Fort Independence Playground, exciting that made the list for Community Parks Initiative. Van Cortlandt Park Bailey Pedestrian Plaza, DOT presented their plan a couple of weeks ago at the TNT meeting for changing that intersection to make it more bicycle friendly and pedestrian friendly. Restoration of the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center building. I reached out to Ray Barbieri, the executive director, and she says they have all of the funding they need. And so
That's amazing.
yeah, that the mayor's office has asked the Parks Department to fill any gaps in funding that are needed. So they've got everything they need. And then engineering fund for Van Cortlandt Park Stadium. Stephanie, I believe this is already funded, correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you pull that rabbit out?
So the idea was, it used to be construction or reconstruction of the stadium. So I think 3 years ago, we said, can we do a study to see if like it's feasible to actually do a reconstruction of it?
Got flooded in Hurricane Ida, and there's a lot of black mold.
There's a lot of
That's
damage
the
to
key.
the
Right.
stadium. So this is just a study, to
Underneath.
look at the existing,
under the stands.
WPA era stadium and say, what can this be made into that will make it better and not, deteriorated? So what, to make a plan, basically, and then we'll know what that is. Let's just go up.
Well, why don't we see if anybody has anything else to add to the capital?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna scroll back up at the very
I'm sorry,
first,
I'm sorry, I thought you were
the
going
very
down
first
to
stages.
expense.
Yeah,
Sorry,
wait, no,
sorry.
we're not gonna go to expense yet. So, Christina, I see your hand up.
No, we're not buying you more goats.
No more goats. But we do need new bathrooms at the nature center. So the bathrooms we have at the nature center right now, the plumbing is failing. It's constantly clogging, just constantly plumbing issues. There's not enough stalls. So when the plumbing is working on nice days, you'll often see a long line of people waiting for the bathroom. And the men's room roof is actually caving in now.
Oh, man.
And that's
And you said there's not
between
enough
that and the
extra
district
stalls?
headquarters, those are probably our most heaviest used bathroom.
Not new restrooms. I mean, they would be
It's,
overall rehabilitation, reconstruction,
And honestly, I wouldn't mind if you tore down the whole nature center and started from scratch.
Just, and tear down the nature center.
I mean, the whole nature center could use a rehaul. It's very tiny. It's not welcoming. Hasn't been updated in a long time.
If it was reconstruct the nature center, including the restrooms,
yeah. That work for you, Christina?
Accessibility.
with ADA accessibility?
Yeah,
It's all one, there's no curves, there's no stairs.
I mean, we wanted to keep it the same footprint. Maybe it makes sense to just have the building be bathrooms and not have a nature center. That's another option. And that would allow us to have bigger, more stalls.
You think the nature center itself is really beyond hope?
No, it's okay, because it's an all-in-one
Or-
level.
You think that the nature center itself is really beyond hope?
I think with the current configuration, yes. It's too small to really function very well as a nature center. You can't fit a full class of kids in there. It's so tiny, or you can, but they'll be on top of each other. So, and it would need, all new exhibits. It would, need to be completely redone. I think it was done in the 90s.
So is
And-
the ask to reconstruct it to make it more updated, or to convert it into, like, more restrooms?
I mean, I think the priority for the park itself and what people really need is more bathrooms.
How's about improving and expanding the restrooms?
Restrooms? Just as long as it stays within the nature center's existing footprint, I think.
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? We don't want to expand the footprint of a building in the park.
How about reimagining the nature center building, including, improving the restrooms.
Reimagining isn't quite the, I don't know, it's not a common word used by the city.
Well, but,
It's not really clear what the intent is when you say reimagine. I think that what she's saying is convert the nature
Well-
center into, more, extensive addition to, into improved restrooms, facilities.
no, she's saying that I mean, the restrooms need work, that's a given, but they're on the outside. The core of it, though, is a nature center, but it doesn't function well the way it's designed,
Right.
which suggests to me reimagining how you would use the space.
I think what she's saying is she's reimagining is using it as additional bathrooms.
Christina, can you
Christina,
clarify what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually something that came up at Speak Up this weekend was about the need for a concession in the park beyond the golf course. So it maybe instead of a nature center, does it make sense for it to be like a small concession stand that's open on a regular basis for all the people who are using the the parade ground? So, which I would think would take a smaller footprint than a nature center. So if you did a concession stand in the middle with the bathrooms on each side, you would have the ability to make a bigger bathroom. And right behind the nature center is that garden space. So there is you could, move back and you're just going on grass. You're not, cutting down trees or anything.
Christina,
But-
could you, what I want to suggest is tabling this for now and having the Alliance come back to us with an idea
Yeah.
of how you'd like to go forward. And I'm open to it, it's just, you don't seem clear, and I think this would be a good juncture to
Oh, I
contemplate.
know exactly what I want, but whether or not the community wants that, I think is the question. So I think,
But the
you know.
Alliance is quite welcome to propose
So Dave,
any new idea.
So Dave, just to say, I think Christina is representing the Alliance, and you're saying, what I'm hearing you say, Christina, just to correct me, is that your ideal would be to take the nature center and convert it into a concession and 2 bathrooms. Is that what the Alliance would like ideally?
yes, ideally, yes.
But it doesn't seem fully thought out. Might it be worth it for you to
David,
come back to, excuse me, I'm speaking with Christina.
I know, I'm the chair, so I just want to call this back to, because I think that Christina's already said what she's going to say, right? So,
Christ.
so just to
All right.
write it down, stop. I just want to take the floor back so we can write down what we've got so far. So can you just, let's just get this written down first,
Mhm.
and then we can finalize it when we finalize the order next time.
But what I've been trying to get across, without your interruption, is suggesting, please, that we remove this as a budget item and have the Alliance come back to us with a recommendation of what they want to do more specifically.
So, thank you, David, I appreciate your input on this, but you're one of 4 people. And then the rest of the committee, would you like to have her come back, or do you feel like it's been, we need to flesh it out, but do you feel like the basic idea is clear?
Yes, our recommendation is to redo the what is currently the nature center building to do restrooms with a concession.
Yeah, I think she's clear.
Fine, go on.
It's not reconstructing the nature center, I think it would be like converting the nature center into a concession, including, and
Reimagining it?
and improving the restrooms. Or like reconstructing the restrooms probably.
Not a budget item.
It is.
Constructing the restroom?
Yeah, like reconstructing the restrooms or, upgrading the restrooms.
Latter part is, the former part is not.
Maybe more conversion of the nature center, is that? Christina, your hand is still up. Do you have something else you want to add?
Oh, sorry. No, I just didn't lower it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally, thank you, it's a great idea. So are there any other, is anybody else on the call who would like to add ideas, or anybody on the? Oh, yeah, Rashida, what would you like to add?
Coworker sent this to me, so I just want to ask if, is McLaughlin,
McLaughlin, yeah.
Where's that one?
Where's that?
on 238, side, Manhattan College, like, you get to, like, 238 before on Bill.
Oh, on Bill Box?
On Bill
Oh,
Box, like that.
Oh, it's in, yes, I think that's on, what street is that?
By Riverdale Avenue?
No, it's Oxford Avenue, I think. McLaughlin Playground.
Greystone Avenue on West 238.
Greystone, right.
I mean, because she heard I was on the Parks and Recreation
Yeah.
Committee, she
What's
sent this,
the,
something
yeah.
about stairs, she sent me, I don't know if it's something that's already being taken care
The stairs are in poor condition?
of.
So it's just purely like to have someone address the stairs?
Yeah, but it could be already, maybe it's already being addressed, but when she heard that I was on this committee, she took pictures.
How do you spell it?
MAC?
Macy?
Yes.
See, isn't it?
MAC.
Macy.
LAU.
What we can do is first we can just
Wow.
ask the Parks Department what's going on, and then we can go from there. That also might be a good expense item. That's perfect, that's what we're here for. Collection of ideas, imagining. Rob Dot, did you have anything?
Yeah, my priority is Bailey Playground.
Bailey Playground?
I stick by it.
Any other additions? Jody, is there something you want to add?
I didn't see, you went very fast and I joined late, is the Bruckner valve box repair for Henry Hudson Park.
It's under expense.
Okay,
Haven't got to expense yet, but it's there. Is that
Oh,
still
okay.
needed?
yeah,
Is that, okay. Okay, if it's still there. All right, so, I'm not seeing any hands, so let's go through and just, like, if everybody wants to, their top one or two, and, we'll see how much variety, and we'll start to add, kind of fill in who our top 10 are. I think that would be great, from the committee. So I agree that I think that the redesign and reconstruction of Bailey Playground should go right up on that list. Did you have one?
I care about anything related to Van Cortlandt Park.
Yeah, so what do you have preferences? What's your number one thing, most important thing other than Bailey Playground? David,
Whatever.
what's your,
Yeah.
Lighting of,
what would help?
playground.
Other CBs are going to advocate for PEP command. I think that would be,
That should be in the top 10.
that should be, yeah. Only if everybody else is gonna.
Yep, everybody's not just us.
Right. Then I don't think it makes like a big impact. Right. One CB over 7 and 12 as well.
Also, the other one that I really think is important is the Fort 4 reconstruction. I think we just got this opportunity with the new restroom to really make this a really great park, and it's just been neglected for a really long time. For all of the other playground equipment and really just integrating it and replacing things.
In general, do we have like a usership?
Like
The
who uses
quotes,
it?
yes, like
Yeah,
how
I would
many
say
people
also
use?
that's also a really good argument. So Bailey Playground for sure gets a lot of heavy use, so does Fort 4 Playground. Marble Hill Playground gets a lot of use, but I don't know if it's at night, if that makes as much of a difference. Lower Brush, the Lower Brush Park, staircase is in very poor condition.
Yeah, and a lot of traffic
Has a
goes
lot of
through.
foot traffic up that
Right.
hill.
Later in the spring, I will be discussing some of the criteria that, from the, community district perspective, that we look at are, please?
Yeah,
Okay. Overall cost, who is affected, how many are affected, the ability to get it done at, in a reasonable amount of time. And so they all come in one of those criteria are usage. And that's why Bailey has stayed high on our list, because also the other one is geography. And Bailey is truly central to our district and near many, many residences.
I was looking for usage. Just made up a word.
Oh, Brush Park?
That one's a hard one to justify. I mean, it's a lovely idea, but it's hard to justify from the perspective of, well, that's you in Park, sorry. From the perspective of how many people it affects, because it's really lovely, but it doesn't really affect that many people in the
I would
district.
disagree. I think a lot of people, actually, a lot of Manhattan College students use it to go up and down.
Yeah.
Like it's just a cut through.
Manhattan College wouldn't go up that.
It's right there. This is
It-
the
it-
lower, this is the lower stair.
Yeah, I know, but Manhattan College is all below that.
It's right there. Entrance to Manhattan. I just think that a fair number of people go up and down those stairs, and they're just in poor condition, and it's not a.
It is in poor condition.
And it's not an expensive project. We're
Oh,
really.
it's not.
It's just the stairs, the steps.
That part I was not aware of. Okay.
It's just the pavers and the steps. It's not.
Yeah, even like some of the handrails are not even attached to the stairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's like rust and like
So
deteriorating.
Julie wanted to talk.
Yeah, Julie, your hand is up.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I raised my hand now because I have to jump off, but I'm not sure if I don't want to add something to capital. I know we just did that exercise and I thought what I wanted to add would be expense, but now I'm questioning it. And I'm thinking about it because you guys are talking about traffic and impact. So I started the Stewards of Ewan Park. So I'm here to talk about Ewan Park. But one thing I've noticed, we've gotten a lot of love with like capital projects over the last few years. We're getting the stairs project. There's all kinds of stuff. But a big thing I've talked to Joe Magneri about is like our lawns are really degraded and compacted and just not doing a good job of absorbing stormwater. So related to all the stormwater problems we're having, I think our lawns need rehabilitation in order to absorb the water a little bit better, reduce the runoff down onto Riverdale Ave. And I don't know, I always think, oh, how much could that cost? But Parks could come back and say, well, that's, a bazillion-dollar project. So I wanted to make sure this is on the radar of Parks, like a lawn rehabilitation project, because the other thing this winter, with all these crazy weather patterns, it really iced over, and I saw like from my window several people fall. I was standing next to a guy who fell and hit his head because the water, it's not just about precipitation, but the water seeps from under the ground onto the paths and creates these really icy conditions. And I remember, it predates me, but there was something about erosion study in Ewan Park that got taken off the list because a gardener planted like a half dozen plants and called it good. That then the weed whackers weed whacked, and now those plants are gone anyway. But Deb, do you think that would fall under capital or expenses?
I think it's worth asking the Parks Department. We can follow up. Just it seems like an expense item to me, honestly, because it seems a bit like not landscaping, but landscaping. Like it's not like gonna last for 20 years. It's gonna last as long as it lasts. Stephanie's got her hand up. Stephanie, you want to speak to that?
I think you should put it on capital because you don't know how much it's going to cost. It could easily be $1 million to fix it. So I
Yeah.
think it should be on capital.
And there is value. I want to get it on Parks's radar as something like they put out barriers basically closing the park, but people just walked around the barriers. But it is a really steep park. And actually Parks assumed the stairs were the most treacherous part, but it wasn't the stairs. It was like all the paths that cut through that were the most treacherous parts. And they put so much salt. They probably put like 50 pounds of salt into the park as well, which also degrades the lawns. But yeah, if we could add that, and I'm so sorry, I have to jump off because my family's devolving a little bit here at bedtime. But that's, I think that's all for you and Park. We have so much going on in that park right now. And you know, it's something too, Stephanie, I don't know if you've seen, they did it in Fort Greene Park. There was a big lawn rehabilitation project that they did. So I don't know if it's something too that could happen like over time, like piecemeal. That's why I was thinking it could be an expense, like doing it part by part, or if it would have to be like a, you know, one big project.
You said that Joe knows the location and the size of it?
It's all of our lawns. It's just all like, right, it's just a mud pit right now, especially with the sledders, and it's compacted and it's all celandine, which means that the healthy lawn isn't coming in. Yeah,
So
the
I
soccer
would
players,
say,
we have soccer players that wear it down.
yeah, I would say leave it on for now, and it would be worth. I can talk to Joe a little bit, and he can poke around and see if it should remain on this list.
Thanks so much.
Local park.
Sure.
Kind of rehabilitation of Ewan Park lawn.
Theory 9?
Theory 9, is that Chip?
Hey Deb, how's it going?
Hey, good to see you.
Who is that?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Theory 9?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
calling
that's
to,
good to know you.
I represent, Cedric, the Fort Ford playground. So I was just trying to see about the lightning across the reservoir. You know how it gets sometimes dark out there, and a lot of kids and family members walk along the reservoir, run the reservoir. So we was trying to put either lights, we had solar lights put up before, but they were taken down. So we was in discussion with Parks, I guess, to try to talk about maybe putting some solar lights back up, or some type of lighting back up in the park.
So we've got an existing, so when you're talking about lighting, do you mean in Fort Ford Park itself, or do you mean
Yeah,
around
so
the
there was
reservoir?
so they
I mean,
had
in
like
Fort
some
Ford,
solar
right?
lights that they had like solar lights that kind of lit up the court, but it also lit up the reservoir.
Right. So I think we already moved reconstruction of Old Fort Ford Park, right? We've got that as a budget, because maybe what we can do is add the lights, including additional lighting, and add that to that.
With lighting around
Around the
the
basketball court.
or the reservoir, would that be a TNT thing, or does that fall under us?
No, I think the lighting around the reservoir is the park-style lighting, that other budget priority, I think.
Oh, okay.
For the rest of it, for like Goulden and stuff. I think, what Chip's referring to is, right in front of.
Improve the lighting.
But you mean specifically improved lighting around the basketball courts, or do you mean for the whole, all the playground and everything?
Like more or less for the basketball court. But because the courts, them lights kind of light up the park, the ones we had up before. I don't know if if it's easier to then light up the whole park, or if, what's easier for the whole community. But I know when we had the solar lights up by the court, it kind of lit up the whole reservoir and the whole park. And then there were solar lights, so it wasn't, they didn't take from the city. There were solar lights, just the sun, the sun soaked up.
How close is the nearest residence to the basketball courts?
It would be right after the church, I would say.
Yeah, not close.
Is it 50 feet? Is it 300 feet?
Maybe close to 300 feet.
Residents nearby.
I would say over 300 feet.
Okay, fine. Just want to make sure that midnight basketball isn't going to bother neighbors, but if there's nobody nearby, that's not a problem.
Yeah. So the park is
Yeah.
adjacent to the reservoir.
We just more or less like we fight against the guys, you know, I fight against the, you know, the music side of the, you know, when the music side, you know, when those complaints happen. So that, you know, besides that, I don't have, you know, I kind of help keep the community in shape. So I kind of fight with the residents that, you know, kind of disrupt the community.
This is the one that had the restroom that got destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
why
this is
don't
the one
you
with the
say-
restroom being built right now.
Oh,
There's a parenthesis that says current capital improvement includes construction of restroom and resurfacing of basketball courts.
I misread that, okay. Fine.
All right, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you guys.
Any,
Good seeing you too,
yeah,
Deb.
totally. So Brush Park, I wasn't hearing a lot of love. Are there other things? We've got the,
We got 5.
we've got 5.
That's cool.
That's why there's also the,
PEP is pending,
PEP
if,
is pending.
is pending other CB
So
support.
last year, Rhonda, you advocated strongly for the Riverdale Playground basketball courts.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, the RK kids use it, 'cause it's right adjacent to RK.
All right.
And the kids had told me like, hey, these backboards and the rims are missing nets or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask and I can,
Just be like checking with them
right,
again to see.
exactly.
Okay. Of the Van Cortlandt ones, we've got the, I think the mansion stairway restoration is a good one.
Well, hang on, if you're talking about replacing the backboards and rims and nets, that's not $35,000.
No.
Resurfacing
And resurfacing
I think it was the resurfacing made it, last year.
Oh, we sort of there.
Resurface
Yeah,
the board.
okay,
Yeah.
that is.
Wait for Van Cortlandt Park, you said?
So we had stairway for Van Cortlandt Park. And I like Christine's idea of converting the bathrooms into a concession too. I think that would be really popular, especially with the cricket players.
Getting your funding from, something that was spoken about.
The concession thing?
Yeah, 80/20.
That 80/20 thing. I mean, it's the, right now, all of the money from concessions goes to the city general fund. But this legislation would change it, so then that would be some additional money that could potentially come back into the coffers of the park. What do you think about Christina's idea? Think about it?
Yeah, we think about it a little bit.
What about Spike Dival Shorefront, I guess Spike Dival Shorefront Park, Jody might not need.
Well, hang on a second, I wanted to step back for a moment. If the restrooms need, doing, then they need redoing.
Yeah.
Whether it stays a nature center or a concession,
That's right.
whatever, I think maybe we should split it up and make sure that, I was not aware there's a problem with the restrooms, but that's pretty important because that's closest to all of the parade grounds.
Maybe we should make like a placeholder, like just put a line or something in the top. Like, I would just copy that and just, as a question mark or something, because none of that language is final at all.
Or?
No, copy that and put it up at the top,
Yeah, as like one of the 5.
of what's on the top.
Do like a,
I would say upgrading the restrooms, semicolon, conversion of, nature center into a concession. That way it gets separated and we make sure we take care of the, restrooms.
we had a 6th one just in case if PEP is not a thing.
Yeah, we should totally keep
That'll
that.
be like,
If there's anything else you feel really
right.
strongly
Yeah,
about, so.
I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
as like a you know, if PEP is not gonna be on there because of the other CBs, we should add like have another one as backup to replace it.
We had 10 last year.
No,
I mean,
true.
you know.
So I would
Because we
move,
still haven't really talked about ranking, so it could be that we put
Right.
7 or 10 up here and then we just rank them.
I don't know, okay. Wasn't able to read his mind.
Do you have any?
We've got, the
Can we go back to Marble Hill Playground? The lighting, it's not park lighting, it's actually activity lighting. I mean, park lighting to me is just sort of like, street lights and, being able to walk around. What they're talking about is, activity lighting, like big lights, so you could play ball at night. Because there's you know, like a half of a football field there.
If I remember correctly from Chris, and Chris brought this up,
Yep, Chris brought it up.
he said there was hardly any lighting
Uh-huh.
through Marble Hill Playground or
Right.
through the park. So I don't think it's necessarily like big activity lights, it's actually like maybe physical. Yeah, I thought it was like along the pathways, actual lighting that is.
No,
He was referring to the AstroTurf, or the turf.
Well, I
on the canoe.
can call him and just verify.
Yeah, with equipment, Stephanie certainly needs a mini packer.
The mini packer.
Probably needs a maxi packer.
I'm gonna
Three of
try.
them.
So this has been on for how many years?
Yeah, and how much garbage is there? And then, like, I think probably one for the district as well.
The trash, the garbage truck.
Yeah. Check with Joe whether that's, leave him one spot. Whether he still needs that.
Yeah,
Jody? Yeah, Jody.
if they don't still need the garbage truck, they might need a new snow plow salt spreader, because I know that was busted. I personally chipped through all the ice in Henry Hudson Park because they didn't have equipment and they were hand spreading salt via buckets, because they didn't have their snowplow spreader. So you might want to check with Joe. If he got his garbage truck, you might want to put in a snowplow salt spreader.
Yeah, that's what that was the note I just made to myself, was just to check with Joe to see what his priority was. Okay. One last look of the Capitol, anything? About the Jerome Park Reservoir safety lighting. Park.
DOT tell us that there was lighting there already?
DOT told us that the roadway was well lit. So that's why this lighting's for the pathway inside the park.
Add it, and then we can decide if we wanna cut it out,
Where
like
rank.
next month, yeah. Bob or Rob sending anything, or no?
Bob was opposed to the ADA access for the Northwest Forest. I don't think he had, he just double check anything he wanted to add. Bailey Playground #1. And then the Northwest Forest. And also just to see if the Riverdale Playground could just be simply done out of, regular operating.
Yeah, it was, like, that's why I'm thinking, cause like,
But you know, the four playground is capital.
what is it? The pickleball courts was done internally. I wonder if they can just do the Riverdale, the playground, not the playground, the basketball courts internally and not have it to be a,
Everything but the paving.
Everything but the
Right.
resurfacing.
I mean, I'll talk to the kids. And
Yeah,
then
talk
I'll
to the kids and see, because it's the resurfacing that makes it a capital project.
Right. I'll see if like b-ball players.
Look on your eye.
Well, it's not related. I was gonna ask Rhonda about, because I know, this is kind of separate, but I know some kids that might.
Do like a whole repainting.
Like
Cool.
they like outdoor courts that are in poor condition in the,
I think the Theory 9 was working with them, and then also there was one, I thought, in maybe Woodlawn, or like, maybe Van Cortlandt Park?
Just got
Be a
their
quarter junior.
yeah.
And
That'll be a good idea.
that'd be somebody for them to talk to, yeah. So let's move on to expense, much shorter list.
We did the expense.
That was all capital. Capital expenses just got five things. It's fast.
It's gonna happen, right back to it.
We got a gator, which I think was Stephanie was, for replace existing utility gator, type vehicle due to age and maintenance. We have crushed stone and boulders, which that was the one that Parks asked for more information on. Parks Enforcement Patrol Command within, this was also just for personnel, and budget for these people. I'm not sure if this is the right place for it or not. There's the Bruckner Box connection on Upper Henry Hudson Park, and then there's funding to support free swimming lessons within the Bronx to all youth under 16, which I put in myself.
Mayor say that he wanted to do that?
I want to do it for all youth under 3, I thought? It was like youngsters, I thought.
Oh, it could be.
Stephanie, your hand is up. You want to correct me
Yeah.
on the swimming lessons?
No, on the gator, we could actually use more than one. If you can put down 3, that would be great. Yeah.
Stephanie, I call that.
Man,
I thought we
man.
might need 3 at this moment in time.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One is that it takes a very, very long time to replace them, so we need to be thinking ahead. And also, we use the gators on the back trails for the cross country course, and it kills them. So going up and down on the cross country course really, really kills the gators. So that's why we need them. Thanks.
Jody.
Stephanie, are you familiar with the soil bank? They have soil, gravel, boulders, crushed stone from construction projects that they provide for free if you can just find a way to transport it.
Yes, thank you.
It's out of the Mayor's Office of Environmental Remediation. And I think you can even give them specs for what you'd like, because they do sift and sort.
Thanks. That's great.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Jody. Is there anything, anything here that you want to comment on?
The Bruckner Box connection, I mean, now after we're talking about the lawns, now I'm like, is this at the threshold for expense, or is it a capital project? Because they have to tear up the street. This is the one where DEP said, no, it's Parks's connection to our pipe. And Parks said, no, DEP did something when they turned the water off for construction 5 years ago. And neither of them want to tear up the street to figure out whose problem it is. So is tearing up a street, put it as a capital expense now?
I thought that we landed on it last year as just I feel like it wouldn't make it capital just because, I don't know, it doesn't
No,
seem
it's just
like a
that
capital
what
project,
Julie
but
said and what
35,000 is
Stephanie
such a
said
low
about the
threshold.
lawn is like making me now rethink it. I agreed that it was an expense last time, but now,
Is it not
what's the
repairing it
threshold?
anymore? Now is it replacing?
What's the threshold? Is it 100,000?
35,000.
Oh,
What is your understanding of the cost?
No one has been able to tell me, since they don't know what they will find when they open up the street.
Okay. Would leave it here, we've got
Yeah.
so many on the other list in
Yeah,
here.
I would leave it, I would recommend it here, and then they,
The bottom line is, when they discover what the problem is, they're gonna do it.
yeah,
I mean, it sounds like a material, plumbing-related kind of thing, that once they figure out what the problem is, they're gonna have to do it. Whether it's, 8,000 or 80,000, they're gonna have to do it.
I would recommend moving it up in the priorities though too, just because it seems like that is good care and maintenance of the park, like, it should have been fixed last year.
Where do you wanna put it?
I don't know, like number 2, like right below the Gators, because the Gators are also part of good care and maintenance of the cross-country course.
Yeah, and then, for the swimming one, Deb,
What?
and for the swimming one, I think there's a parks hearing on that.
The parks, what?
Hearing.
There
I
is a
think there's
parks
a-
hearing on that.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a parks hearing, it is a, oversight hearing, for the city council. It was part of my, old business, but, or new business. But the oversight hearing is next week. Where they're looking for feedback from the community on the impact of, like basically beach safety and pool safety in the city. There's a lot of momentum, and to David's point, the mayor has, opened up free swimming lessons, but there's still a need for actual pools and actual lifeguards and swim instructors. So my thinking here was just to put that on the radar, that we need more, swimming instructors, and we need more access to pools. I mean, even if it's access to pools in the high schools, which is one of the initiatives as part of, I think, what the mayor is looking for, is to make it easier for, the Parks Department to work with the schools to have access to those pools.
thanks for the update.
Is there anything here we want to remove? Because this is, this is the whole list. I mean, I'm fine with it.
Can we add the Henry Hudson lawn? It's much smaller, but has the exact same issues that the Ewan Park lawn has. It's a steep hill, and the entire upper park was unusable, covered in a half to an inch worth of ice in that, the whole loop. Like, no joke, I literally was out there for hours on multiple days, shipping a path through for people to walk on, because parks just couldn't. And it's from the water coming off the hill, the sled, but it's not a giant lawn like Ewan Park is. So I'm suggesting it go under expense, because it's a smaller project.
Rehabilitation of lawns, so copy that, but then it's for Henry Hudson Park, right, Jody?
Yeah, Henry Hudson Upper Park.
Henry Hudson Park.
Anything else? Question? Progress, so save that, and if you could send that to me, then I can go to the committee for next time.
Yep.
All right. So, moving on to old business, Bruss Park Paper Street. So I got an update from DOT. So DOT is gonna be adding some curbing along Dash Place by Gravestone, extending out, past the new building on Dash Place, to the corner, so of Bruss Park, so that top corner. And the reason they're adding the curbing is to address the drainage that the developer created by shifting the soil with the construction, so that there'll be actual water management along that whole edge of the park to prevent runoff into the park. So that's one piece of news. They also noticed some illegal signs being put up by the paper street down on the Waldo end to tell people to keep the driveway clear. They wanted to let us know that these are not DOT signs and that they will be removing them. And then they're working with the fire department to confirm if they require access to the school from Waldo. And then once they know that for sure, then they can determine it would qualify, then they will know whether it qualifies for a plaza. Block off the paper street right at the sidewalk so that there's no cars. The concern that the stewards of Bruss Park and the co-op had was that with the school there, parents would drive all the way up the paper street and then they would back out. And it would be right into that intersection. And so the ask was to put some planters or something at the end so that, you know, the cars were not driving all the way up.
They're gonna do that, yeah.
Yeah, but that would make it a plaza, and so, but they need to make sure that the fire trucks don't actually have to, they have to hear from the fire department officially that the fire
Oh, I
trucks
see,
don't
from
have
that
to all the way
perspective,
up.
Getting back to the first point about the curbing, that, if I'm thinking about the correct place, I think that's where Dash comes into Greystone?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's that little dog leg.
Yeah, we had some discussions about the fact that there are no crosswalks and that people park in the curb cuts.
On Greystone or on Dash?
Both, really. Two on Greystone and the one across Dash as it reaches Greystone.
Part of that whole, that conversation when DOT did the presentation to TNT like 2 years ago?
Something like that with Dan and all that sort of stuff. And there really is a need to put in those crosswalks to stop people from parking at the curb cuts.
Oh, I see, I know what you mean. They're talking about the curb cuts coming out of Upper Bruss Park, at Greystone. To get
Well,
across Greystone.
well, sort of, but I mean, they really are, if I remember correctly, it's how, Dash Place comes into, Greystone. I think Bruss Park stairs are like here.
Yeah.
But, Dash Place is here, there should be a crosswalk here, there should be a crosswalk here, there should be a crosswalk here, because there are curb cuts at each of these points, and put cars parked there.
So there's no sidewalk on that one part where, so I think this is what they're fixing, is that they're gonna put the sidewalk in, and then presumably there also will be curb cuts.
All right, but to
Yeah.
remind them that we want the curb cuts, but we also want the crosswalks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume that they'll come back to the DOT, or to
TNT.
traffic, to TNT and present the sidewalk once they are doing it, so, but this was just, we'd asked for an update about what they were doing about runoff.
Okay.
And then also I got a report from residents about garbage being piled, at the end of the paper street by the school. And I didn't actually know the answer to where the garbage is supposed to go, whether that's appropriate, so we're checking in with sanitation on that. And then, yes, there's an oversight hearing on water safety, at beaches and schools, and I did not write the date, and so, but it is coming up. And New Yorkers for Parks is advocating for that as well, and so the information around the hearing is also on their website. That's all I got. Any other old business?
Yes. The letter that went out to the Colonial Dames that we never saw, I'm concerned about that.
Well, you saw that. It's the letter that you saw.
Well, Deb, may I speak, please?
I
Good,
just wanted to
thank
correct
you.
the record there.
No, let me tell you what the issue is before you tell me that I'm wrong. The letter was not received, the final letter was not received. It was sent out a week after it was sent by you, distributed by you to us, without sufficient time for us to get back. Bob did comment that he was less concerned about this one. However, this is something that we're not even going to talk about in 3 months. There is no rush to get this letter out because, as you all know, I wrote a rather lengthy response yesterday. Not knowing that the letter had gone out a week ago, not knowing the letter was going to go out, I assumed the letter was going to be discussed tonight. That's why I sent out mine after the weekend. There was no need to get it out like that, and this has happened before where you've sent out letters on behalf of the committee without sufficient discussion amongst us, without our approving these going out. And you may have spoken with Julie, I don't know. I'll trust you when you say that you did, but that isn't sufficient. There was no need to get this letter out so quickly when we had months to deal with it, to get out a letter in 1 week without getting other feedback. And this is clearly a very controversial topic. There were, Bob and I had rather strong comments on the first edition of the letter, and I obviously had other ones. The letter was frankly confrontational, and it shouldn't have come from this board, because the Colonial Dames do not work for us, and we scolded them for how they've acted in the past, and that's not appropriate, okay? Frankly, letters like that should not come out from the committee or the committee chair without our at least voting on it, particularly because it was a known controversy. Yes, thank you, Deb.
So what I just wanted to clarify, just for folks who are just tuning in, is that.
Well, I believe all of you have seen this letter, my letter, right? That I sent yesterday.
Don't interrupt, let me finish here. So on February 10th, after the last meeting, I sent out the second version of the letter. So I sent out a very first draft very quickly, about a week after our last meeting, when the Colonial Dames came. And it was part of a response that we'd agreed that we were going to send, and I said I would send a draft to the committee. So I sent a draft. I got feedback from you. I got feedback from Bob. I got feedback from Margaret Della. I might have gotten feedback from you. I don't remember. But that I took all the feedback together, and I did a completely different draft, and that draft went out on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And so I waited a week. I got feedback from Ramdad. I got feedback from Bob. And
Did you
so
share any of that feedback?
I didn't need to. Both
Okay.
people said the letter looks fine.
Okay, so that's still sharing.
Okay, well, I'm sharing it now. So
But
on
you
the.
did 2 weeks ago when you sent out the letter.
So David, just let me finish, I let you finish. So that was on the 10th, I waited a week, I got feedback from a couple of people that said that they thought it was fine, and so I thought it was fine. So David, yes, you did respond to me, but you responded to me, yesterday,
That's right.
which was 17 days later. And so I appreciate that, you had opinions and you wanted to share them, and I'm sorry that it didn't, get integrated into the letter. But usually when you respond, like you did with the first time when you gave me edits, you responded almost within a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really did not think, after waiting for a week, that you had anything you wanted to say, because you normally respond very quickly.
Okay.
So,
May I?
that's all.
Okay.
So just one last.
Sure, please.
Is I do have the letter, so I can read it out loud.
No, please don't bother. Please email it to us.
So
It's
is there
late.
anybody on the call who would like to hear the letter? Just to, because it's been characterized, and so I want to make sure that if anybody would like to actually hear what it says. Jody, your hand is up. You have something you'd like to say?
Before David started airing the board's dirty laundry, I wanted to add some things about the hearing that you mentioned.
Oh, the,
City council hearing.
city council hearing on,
We'll get back to that in a moment, Jody?
That's up to Deb.
Okay. So, this is the second time this has happened where you've sent out a.
the second time.
Yes, it is, Deb.
So, David,
Months ago.
David, it's done.
Deb, I have the floor at the moment.
Well, okay.
Good.
So-
I have the floor at the moment. Please do not interrupt me.
Finish.
Please do not interrupt me. Please do not interrupt me. I have the floor. Thank you. This is the second time this has happened. It is clearly a controversial topic, both within the committee and across the city, okay? And you have been advised that some of us have found the language to be excessive. Yes, the first time I responded within, I guess, hours, I don't recall, but please let me speak uninterrupted. I have the floor. Thank you. I will trust you when you say that my response was within hours. I don't really care. The point is, this is not something that needed to go out within a week. If you felt that it did, you should have advised us, and I would have rearranged my schedule to accommodate you. I was not aware of it. okay? And so, and this is not a light topic. This is something that's not being handled well. And we do not have the right to scold a vendor, in effect, because they don't work for us. They work for Parks, okay? We are entitled to give Parks our opinion. We are entitled to complain about what they do after the fact in subsequent meetings. We do not have the right to scold them about past activity rather than doing, as you said, guidance. Yes, we should give them guidance, and that's what we're in the process of doing, is giving them guidance, sharing our guidance to the Parks Department about how we wanted to go forward, and being kind enough to share that information with them as they try to come back to us as requested by May. So I think that the fact that you waited a week and you assumed, you shouldn't have assumed. This is the second time it's happened. I ask that you not send out such things on our behalf without giving us notice that you're going to send it out by a certain date or time. Okay?
Do you want to add to this? Jody?
So, before I go back to the hearing, I just have to say that as a community member, I just found this very inappropriate and very uncomfortable and very distasteful in the belligerent way that David dealt with this issue, which could have been dealt one-on-one with the chair behind the scenes. So, so I just wanted to say that first. I will go back to my topic, which is the hearing.
Thank you for your counsel, Jody.
It's my opinion, David. It is, the hearing also includes a pre-considered bill that is being introduced. It is Intro 130, and it is requiring the composting of all plant material, not including trees, from the 10 largest parks in each borough. And for ours, that includes, and it says in, abutting, or near the park, and that includes Van Cortlandt Park and Riverdale Park in our district. I've informed the group that's advocating for it that I am strongly against this bill, as it is sponsored by Councilmember Gail Brewer, who saw one black bag of plant material on a curb outside a park and is using a pile driver instead of a hammer to make sure that materials are being composted. But there's not going to be a hearing on this. They're just passing it right through. And I've asked that they do hold a hearing, that they do ask parks how much plant material is being black bagged and disposed of rather than composted. So I just wanted to put that on your radar, that I have been following this since June, and now it's being introduced pre-considered.
Jody, quick question. I'm just to make sure I understand. So, what exactly is the rule requiring it? That so, like, if you're at Van Cortlandt Park and for Riverdale Park, is it the stuff that is collected, like leaves and stuff? Is it saying it has to be bagged? Is that what it says?
No, it's saying that it literally lists like leaves, grass clippings, twigs, branches, plant material, small things, not trees, not tree limbs, must be composted. Anything that is collected by parks must be composted. It cannot be black bagged. But no one has been able to tell me, well, how much of stuff is getting black bagged? Because I don't think it's really a lot. And it's unclear. Some people are saying that, oh no, the bill means that sanitation is going to create and run these facilities. And other people are saying, no, I think that it's going to be in the park, so parks would run it. So it's a really messy, rushed, poorly thought out bill. I also believe that is the way that the city council is going to wash their hands of not refunding the NYC Compost Project. Those 7 organizations included the New York Botanical Garden, the program I worked in for 20 years and managed, which provide community compost education to many of the Bronx 8 community gardens and parks groups. So I just wanted to let you know that the city council's doing some crazy things with parks, and it's not always very transparent.
Okay.
And the hearing is
Thank you for
Friday.
letting us
The
know.
hearing's Friday.
Thank you, okay. Is that for, intro 130, or is that also for the water safety? They're both, right?
Yeah, it's weird because it's the water safety one, and people that registered to speak because they were told that this intro was going to be in there were then told, no, we're going to concentrate on the water safety, but the bill is included, so you should submit written testimony about the bill in regard to
Right.
this hearing. So it's just messy. And I didn't want to not say something and then it comes up on, Friday or Monday and you didn't know about it, and I did.
Good, okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Jody,
You're
as
welcome.
always. Any other new business? Right, so I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Meeting is adjourned, 9:06.